everyone. Welcome back. Today, let's talk about metrics. Now, don't turn it off, please. Go pause it. I hear the collective sigh that you all just had because I get it. The word metric sounds really boring. It sounds corporate. It sounds like spreadsheets and dashboards and someone telling you to track your KPIs while your soul slowly leaves your body. But here's the thing and why I'm talking about it today. Metrics are actually one of the biggest energetic advantages you can have this year. The one is a very physical energy. It's like, bring the receipts. And you can't have a receipt unless you're tracking something. Listen, if you are not tracking anything at all, I'm going to say this very lovingly, but also very directly. That is bypassing. It's energetic bypassing. Because if you want to materialize something, not just visualize it, you're going to need those receipts. And receipts require tracking. Okay? Now, again, if you're still with me, before you panic, I am not here to tell you which metrics that you need to track. I'm not here to tell you which metrics matter to you. That's the whole point of this episode, because the metrics that matter to you, figuring out what those are, that, spoiler, is your energetic advantage. Okay, so let's just land into what metrics actually are. So the word metric comes from the Greek word metron, which literally just means measure. There's no judgment, there's no verdict, measure. Metrics were never meant to shame you, to show you what you have not accomplished. They were meant to orient you. Metrics are not rules. They're not judgments. They're not a morality system. Metrics are feedback, objective feedback. They tell you what's working, what's landing, what might be moving, what's heavy, what's draining, what wants more energy, and what wants to be released. And it's like metrics are the reality, tapping you on the shoulder saying like, hey, look here. Metrics are not about you. I want to say this again. Metrics are not measuring you. It's impossible. Metrics don't tell you who you are. They tell you where you are. And orientation is leadership, especially in this one year. Now, here's where people get tripped up and where maybe in the past you've had metrics and they haven't worked for you, okay? Sometimes, falsely, spoiler, we think metrics are only quantitative. So numbers, money, counting, percentages, right? But the most powerful metrics actually live on two different axes, right? If you think about, the vertical line and the horizontal line, on the horizontal line on this tracking is the quantitative, right? Is the tangible, is the physical, is the number of, right? But equally as important is the vertical line, which is qualitative, how it felt for you, how it moved through you, how it landed. If you only track numbers, you only track quantitative, and you ignore the energy, the qualitative, you're going to build something that looks good on paper, but feels totally misaligned. If you only track energy, if you only worry about how it feels for you, and you ignore the reality of the numbers, you're going to stay in potential energy. And so the magic in my metrics and the metrics that I encourage everyone to use is the relationship between the two. Okay. Now, again, I get why some people go away from the qualitative because that's where emotion comes in. But remember, metrics were never meant to tell you if you're good or you're bad, right? Metrics are meant to tell you where you are in relationship to reality. And when we make metrics mean something about our worth, that's when we stop looking at them, right? But this year isn't about looking away. The year of the visionary leader is about eyes wide open. Because when we can see clearly, we can lead clearly. Now, here's what I really want you to dig into. Because I see so many smart, intuitive, capable people get stuck here. They're tracking metrics that they were told to track. So maybe your coach says, okay, track gross revenue. Or maybe there's a business advice that says track cash in the bank. Or maybe, if you're marketing on social media, they say track your follower growth. And listen, all of those are valid metrics, but valid does not mean relevant. So here's an example. I've had a lot of different people tell me to track gross revenue as my main metric. And I think that's perhaps what people tell you as the bottom line in business to track. But if I'm being completely honest, which I always am, especially here, that metric does almost nothing for me energetically. It doesn't motivate me. It doesn't guide my decisions. And it doesn't tell me what to adjust, right? Now, at the same time, I have clients who love that metric. They love to track their revenue. It lights them up. It anchors them, right? It's the same metric, but it has a totally different energetic impact. And a metric that drains you is not an advantage. A metric that you have no feeling around or that you don't care about is not an advantage, even if it's correct, right? Another place that is really going to matter here in this year is when you're hiring support, because you're going to hear a lot of people say this year, I can get you X, Y, and Z. I can get you more followers, more reach, more leads, bigger numbers, whatever X, Y, and Z is, okay? But here's the thing. That might sound impressive in their marketing, and your mind might even trick you into telling you that's what you want. But the real question you should be asking yourself is not like, oh, I wonder if they can get me that metric. The first question you should ask yourself is, does that metric actually matter to you? Does it move your business forward? Does it support what you are trying to build? Or does it just look good on paper? Because if you don't know your own metrics, you're going to outsource your power to someone else's definition of success. And we know leaders don't do that. So these sneaky ones that I was just alluding to are the vanity metrics, are the ego metrics. These are the metrics that look really good, but they actually don't help you lead if it's not aligned with your strategy. So this could be something like followers, likes, registrations, views, big numbers, whatever that is. I'll give you a real example here. And remember, every example that I give, either from myself or my clients or the leaders that you hear on the podcast, we're not saying that it has to be the same as us. We're just saying, hey, take this example and use it as a mirror for your own life and business and figure out yours using this, okay? So here's one that just happened to me at the end of 2025. So for years, I have offered a free year ahead forecast for the next year. And in 2023, I had over 500 people sign up for it. And on paper, like amazing. And I'm not going to lie, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so amazing. I had over 500 people sign up for this, whatever. Okay. But when I actually dove into the metrics that mattered to me, I quickly realized that this was not the success I thought it was. Specifically, I feel, I want to say I had about maybe 50 live, which is great. But then when I actually looked at who watched the replay, I was really disappointed. In fact, I was crushed, actually, because I had thought that because so many people had signed up for this thing, I poured my heart and my soul into it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I get to make a difference in 500 people's lives, like for the better. This is amazing. And I was shocked and disheartened to see how low, percentage wise, the number of views I actually had on it. Fast forward to this year, 2025. And I really felt, even if it was small, which it was, I wanted to create this energy of reciprocity and investment in the forecast because I knew that what I was creating was so epic. I mean, it wasn't just the forecast, right? It was like a written guide, a step-by-step, energetic, intuitive spread, a month by month, play by play. Like, I mean, it had so much in it. And so for this year, I had a investment associated to it, tiny $44. And this year, I had just over 100 people sign up for it. And if I were to compare that metric to the 507 who had previously registered, that feels like this year was a failure. But here's the metric that really mattered to me. Over 50% of people who had registered for the forecast showed up live. And as of today on the recording, all but 2 have watched the replay. Like more than 95%. For me, reach, the amount of people, is not resonance. That number, a 500 number, fed my ego for about 5 minutes. Then reality showed up and was like, okay, but like who stayed? And for me, that's the metric that matters. Like if I'm going to show up in my full energy, I want people to show up in theirs and actually take action on the guidance that they not only receive, but that they generate in themselves for investing and showing up in themselves. And that's the metric that mattered to me. You know, vanity metrics make you feel impressive, but real metrics are what changes your behavior. And if a metric makes you feel good, but it gives you no direction, it's not serving you. So what metrics actually matter? Okay. As I said, like I'm not going to give you a list and say, track these exact 5 things, because what you care about and what I care about are different. But instead, I want to give you this framework. I want to give you some categories to feel into. I want you to think of these as doors, not rules. Okay. So the first type of metric is resonance metric. Who stayed? Who replied? Retention rates? Who came back? Who implemented, right? You can feel into these conversion metrics, right? So yes, a conversion metric is money. It also could be movement through your offers. Did this lead somewhere more meaningful, right? You can track upsells, downsells, bumps, whatever conversion that feels most important for you. You can track capacity metrics. How did this feel in my body? Did I feel energized or depleted? Did I feel expanded or restricted or constricted? And, you know, that was so fascinating to me. It was this capacity metric that in this past year, I felt so good in not only delivering the forecast, but in the days that followed, right? Because more people were engaged, I was able to feed off that energy. And I was not disappointed at all. I was not wondering where, you know, or why people had signed up and not come, right? It felt like a beautiful exchange. And because of that, I want to do more of it. And this is where the next metric comes into play. desire metrics. Would I do this again? Do I want to deepen this? Do I want to end this? And then there are integrity metrics, right? And integrity, let's just be clear here, has nothing to do with morals. It's not to do with what's right or wrong. Integrity means integral or whole. So it is like, does this feel in resonance with myself? Did the exchange feel valid for you? Did you undercharge, overgive? These are the metrics that are actually going to teach you something. Because remember, metrics are mirrors. They're not moral judgments. Metrics, just like money, just like resources, just like time, it's all neutral, right? It's our feelings and emotions that make them not neutral, but inherently they are. And so metrics, no matter if one person signs up or 100 people sign up or whatever metrics you're tracking, they're not saying you're good or you're bad. They're not saying if you're talented or untalented, worthy or unworthy. They're mirrors. So if you avoid mirrors, if you avoid looking at yourself in the mirror, that keeps you stuck in stories. Tracking metrics collapses fantasy and reveals the truth. And we know that leadership, well, real leadership, requires truth. So here's how you can track these energetic metrics. Because I hear what you're saying is, okay, I know how to track numbers, but how do I track energy? Okay, it's simple. It's not fancy. After an event or an offer or a launch or a week, I want you to rate your energy from 1 to 10. And you can write one word, how you're feeling, expanded, heavy, clean, forced. And you can ask your body, would I do this again? And if the answer is no, you can ask yourself, what would need to change in order for me to want to do it again? Okay? You can do this weekly, right? A great weekly reflection is like, what moved, what stalled, what surprised me. Listen, you can journal, you can voice note, you can keep a notes app list on your phone. Consistency always beats complexity. So when you're deciding to choose your metrics, it's also important that you commit to tracking them and evaluating them. And here's the thing, without even intentionally tracking them, your audience is already giving you metrics, right? Your audience is constantly giving you data, replies, questions, silence, right? What they quote back to you, what they say back to you that you've already said, what they don't comment on. Remember, as hard as it may be to look at, silence is also a metric. And so this is why identifying the metrics that matter to you and committing to tracking them becomes your biggest energetic advantage. Because when you know your metrics, you stop comparing. And when you stop comparing, you pivot faster, you trust yourself more, you waste less energy, you build momentum that actually lasts, you don't get distracted. Metrics become self-leadership. And I'm human. I have an ego. Of course, we all do. And I'm going to say this was challenging for me this year. I had to remind myself of the metrics that mattered to me so much. When I saw other people in the online space offering these free events and getting those vanity metrics that I once did. But I knew that those were not the metric that actually mattered. And I knew that in my specific business strategy for next year, even if I had that many people come, and even if I had a high percentage conversion rate, I do not or would not have the capacity to serve them at the level that I wanted to in the next year. So I made a decision to double down on the metrics that mattered. and I committed to tracking them for me. And as soon as that happened, as soon as I understood the why underneath my metric, comparison kind of just washed away, because it didn't matter what anyone else's successes were, because what they were tracking was not important to me. So here's your invitation. Here's what I want you to do from this episode. Don't have to track everything. Don't have to build a dashboard. You don't have to become this robot that's like focused on metrics, metrics, metrics. I want you to pick 3 to 5 metrics that actually matter to you. And I want you to track them for 30 days. Now, if you are in business, this is going to be easy for you. But also, if one of your goals or intentions for 2026 is perhaps to call in a partner, to be a present parent, if it's anything personally related, remember, you can also track metrics there. Okay? Let reality educate you. If this episode helped you see metrics differently, please share it. Please send it to someone who might be stuck in some vanity metrics or might be avoiding numbers altogether. Because the metric that matters most is the one that tells you the truth that you have been avoiding. Here's the thing. A lot of the time, we don't avoid tracking metrics because we're lazy. We avoid them because we don't want to see. Because seeing means we can't unsee. Seeing means responsibility. And seeing means we have to decide. And this year, this eyes wide open year, is not asking you to be perfect, but it is asking you to be honest. When you track something and the number is lower than you want, that's not failure. It's information. Hey, that metric isn't saying you messed up. It's saying, here's where to look next. And honestly, I'm grateful for the metrics that disappoint me, because at least I know. At least I'm not guessing. At least I'm not operating on like vibes alone, right? Because having this clarity really builds confidence. When you stop making metrics mean anything about your worth, metrics become one of the most supportive tools that you have. They show you where to refine. They show you where to redirect, where to release, where to double down. Eyes wide open doesn't mean harsh. It means awake. So track what matters to you. Look at it clearly and thank it for showing you the truth. And then lead yourself forward from there. That is energetic advantage. And as you know, we all have it. So if you are not using metrics in your life or in your business, you are missing out on a huge energetic advantage that you can switch like this. So as you pick your 3 to 5 metrics that matter and you commit to tracking them for 30 days without judgment, I would love if you were to send me a message, connect with me on Instagram, share what your metrics are and why you've decided to track them, and if you're open to it, the results. Because again, once we know this energetic advantage, we can harness it and we know exactly where it is leading us next. And so with that, I hope this has made you really embody the energy of metrics, not as boring, have to do type of things, but as wanting to engage with the numbers and energy in a different way. Thanks for joining. I can't wait to chat with you next time. And as we move into the next month, get ready. The leaders that are scheduled to come on the pod are just out of this world. They are unabashedly not only owning their energetic advantage, but using it. And lucky for us, they're going to share it. So stay tuned, subscribe, share, and I'll see you next time.